So thank you again for joining us for today's webinar, where we'll focus on getting familiar with NHA's platform and website as new administrative users. Here at NHA, we are fully invested in the success of you and your candidates. We take pride in doing what is right and are not afraid to use our voice if it moves the industry forward. We are here to help ensure that all of your learners, no matter their background or needs, feels confident and empowered to complete their required learning or earn their accredited certification. Let's do a brief introduction to NHA. But before we talk about us, I want to take a moment to get to know you. I'll launch a couple of quick polls and what option most closely ties to your role with your institution. All right, so you should be seeing a poll, I'm sorry, come up. All right, so what is the role with your institution? All right, everybody, thank you for answering. I'll wait a few more seconds before I end the poll. Looks like almost everybody's answered. All right, so it looks like we have a mix of proctors, program coordinators, and educators. Well, everybody, thank you so much for joining. Now, which profession is your institution training towards? All right, so I'm going to launch another poll. All right, this is multiple choice, so if you're training for all of them, go ahead and click them all. You might have to scroll down a little bit to see all options, but please feel free to just submit all if you're teaching them all. All right, CCMA, of course, most popular one. Some phlebotomy, patient care techs, administrative assistant, e-health records, pharmacy tech. All right, I'll wait a few more seconds before I end this poll. All right, everybody, thank you for taking the time for answering that poll. All right, so during today's session, we're going to review NHA and the resources we provide. We'll walk through your access to the NHI website and how you can be fully enabled to run your program from there, and even do a live walkthrough before getting to Q&A. And remember to stick around with us to the end so you can be entered into the raffle. Now that we have seen a bit about you, you should know that NHA is the largest frontline healthcare worker certification organization in the industry. With over 1 million certified candidates, we are leading the industry, and we use the resources and information from our experiences and learning partners to create learning materials that widen their skills and abilities within the health field and have shown to help candidates have a higher potential to earn their nationally accredited certification. Those resources come in many formats, starting with our nationally accredited certification in 2 sections. 5 of the 8 certifications fall within the practitioner side of frontline healthcare, including medical assistant, phlebotomist, pharmacy technician, EKG, and patient care technician. There are also 3 certifications in an administrative capacity, which include billing and coding, medical administrative assistant, and e-health records. In addition, NHA develops comprehensive learning tools around key learning objectives for the healthcare professions we serve. These resources range from didactic learning in medical terminology or anatomy and physiology to the development of essential soft skills as well as clinical skills for medical assistants, administrative assistants, and pharmacy technicians. These can be used across the entire learner's journey and can be packaged together to provide a comprehensive experience from start to finish. Now that you've seen a little bit about NHA, let's talk about the possible resources in a little more depth. But before we do, let me ask another quick question. So, oh, let me launch it. Apologize. There we go. So, what are you hoping to take away from today? There's a single choice. If you use the other, please post the other in the chat. All right, looks like the majority here are brand new to NHA and you want to learn everything. Well, let's go ahead and learn everything, shall we? All right. You should have already received a confirmation email from nhanow.com with a prompt to set up your administrative login. If you haven't seen this, check in your spam box or junk mail. This email will walk you through the first steps to set up your administrative login, which you access at nhanow.com. Once logged in, you have access to almost everything you could need to manage your learners and account from the home screen. This is your dashboard and is broken into two main categories. The center of the screen will provide you quick access to NHA's supplemental resources. And this first link under Get Started will take you to test plans for all of NHA's 8 nationally accredited exams, and they're all available to download from this first link. This is an important area for you to know what NHA's exams will cover and to provide information to your candidates. We know this is important for you both. Which leads me to call out some information around a study NHA completed recently from over 6,000 candidates across the country to try and uncover what the common themes are for what the biggest hurdles were for them to take their national exam. Out, out of the options listed, which one do you think was the most common issue reported? Again, another poll. So which one do you believe was the most common concern? All right, a few have answered. I'll wait a few more seconds. All right, thank you for taking the time to answer that poll. So the answer was test anxiety, which we know can be addressed through preparation. This is one of the many reasons why it's a best practice to get your candidates into their NHA accounts as soon as possible. Will we be sending them welcome emails and information on preparing for their exam? Here are just some of the hundreds of comments from that survey that focused on uncertainty, not just around general anxiety, but not knowing if they're prepared. Have they learned all the things they need? And worry about making it through the timed exam. Providing the exam test plans and NHA's resources or learning tools have shown to make a positive impact. So, going back to the other resources to help with all of this in your Get Started area, this may rotate resources throughout the calendar year to provide you access to quick links around the first steps and frequently asked questions, as well as resources on testing or implementing NHA's materials. Scrolling down your page will show you some of the most used how-to resources that will walk you through the administrative steps you would need to manage your NHA account. Right in this list, you'll see the recently upgraded Knowledge Center. This is where you can do an open search for any resource you may need or look through the three core areas of the resources, including preparing learners to test, exam day troubleshooting, and supplemental implementation guides. Follow this option for exam guides and resources to be able to access any forms or technical requirements, or search for any step that you need. Like NHA's Exam Ready Checklist, which is a resource for administrators walking through the month or so before an exam occurs. The Library of Resources has additional tools for you as well. Searching through this page will take you to video guides and PDFs to help you, including setting up the learning content, providing access to candidates, opening exam dates, and monitor applications and results. Even tools to share with your learners to help them through their preparation process. The NHA exam online study materials are based on the NHA test plan for that certification and includes an interactive study guide as well as a series of practice tests designed to look and feel just like the exam. This package also provides the NHA Focus Review, a personalized study guide feature to help candidates as they navigate through their practice tests. These should be assigned digitally to each candidate so they can move through the materials on their own, as well as provide adequate reporting for both group and individual learner growth. That focus review is a secondary tool, which is separate from the study guide and is specific to each practice test attempt to help candidates focus further on those areas that they may still be struggling in. Those study packages are available for preparing for any of NHA's exams. Now let's review the other learning materials available from NHA. Starting with core learning, NHA has learning content focused either on anatomy and physiology or medical terminology. These address just the right amount of content for learners in entry roles through interactive and engaging online materials. NHA has a full pharmacy technician suite of materials that start with inherent learning on becoming a pharmacy technician through the pharmacier. Though mapped to NHA's exam, it is designed to meet the ASHP didactic standards for learning in this critical role. We also have primary learning tools on medical math, dosage and calculations in the pharmacier math. There are skills developers for your medical assistants as well, which include the MA Skills Builder Clinical and Clinical Plus. These provide an interactive learning experience and help develop and execute 39 clinical competencies employers are needing in an entry-level medical assistant. And in the Clinical Plus, also address the core foundational knowledge necessary behind those skills. In NHA's Medical Administrative Assistant skills developers, the MA Administrative and Administrative Plus focus on the technical and job ready to handle front and back office administrative responsibilities in skills development and core knowledge. Though we know the clinical skills are essential, administrative duties are a large part of the MA's role. These tools are also applicable for your office administrative staff. Additional skill developers or career laddering options include providing upskilling and professionalism, starting with personability. This is available in both the clinical or pharmacy setting and uses online simulations and role play to develop abilities in teamwork, emotional intelligence, and communication. You can ladder further by leveraging principles of health coaching, another immersive learning tool with realistic scenarios to continue the learning and communication, but also population health management and motivational interviewing. If you are in a patient-centered care environment, any member of the care team could deepen their understanding of what it means to work in this quality versus quantity environment by using the assessed-based certificate program, team-based care. Another resource you can also obtain from your NHA representative are NHA's implementation guides. And these guides are available to you, will outline the content, implementation suggestions, and even the average time it should take for a candidate to navigate through any of NHA's study materials. You can see here a snapshot across just 4 of our 8 certification prep packages and the time it can take an average candidate to work through just the study tutorial portion, which can range widely. These guides are available for all of NHA's learning resources. Specifically for all of NHA's core learning resources and for some of our exam materials, we also provide implementation toolkits that can include downloadable and editable PowerPoint presentations aligned to the core learning, optional lesson plans outlining the core content and suggestions for implementation, optional additional testing banks and resources to implement, additional activities to help scrub and polish the learning, walkthrough videos unique to the product content, and mapping resources to accreditations, textbooks, and test plans. In fact, we have mapping resources for our exam preparation resources too, which you can request from your NHA representative called alignment guides. These are unique to the certification type and include an outline of the full test plan, identifying how many scored questions there will be on the exam in each domain. This also will map out where in the NHA study guide that content is covered, and if there are any additional resources within that learning content to help with the process, including videos and games. This is a wonderful tool to use to align to your students' learning, as well as review your program content to ensure there aren't any large gaps in the learning materials. There are also a few open columns, so you can plug in where in your book, week, or program you are covering the core content. NHA has full program maps that you could use to implement any or all of these products and help with the learner journey from start to finish. Here is one example of our medical assistant pathway, but we have many different versions. If you would like to know more about these, reach out to your NHA representative. All right, so we want to take a quick moment and see if there have been any major questions regarding any of the resources that we just walked through. Team?
Currently, Diego, we do not have any questions.
Perfect. Thank you, Mary.
You're welcome.
Now, I know that was a lot we just covered. So that survey link you'll get at the end of today's session, be sure to note if you'd like anyone to follow up with you directly on any of the resources we were reviewing. Your NHA contact will be able to follow up with you with more information and answers. Now that you've seen your resources, let's talk about your access to the website and even get into that live demonstration. So we've reviewed the resources part of the dashboard. The other portion of the NHA website is on the left-hand side in your navigation bar. This is where you can find your administrative shortcuts from viewing your inventory and creating your courses, to pulling reports for your program and study materials, monitoring candidate application and exam results, and depending on your role, adding or removing additional administrative users, and even viewing your exam calendar, creating test dates, and proctoring the exam. In fact, right from here is where you can get your learners started with creating their personal logins. Now, if your institution is using NHA's LMS integration, you'd want to follow the normal steps for learner access from your LMS. But for everyone else, you can invite your candidates to set up their logins well before providing any learning resources through the account invitation feature right from your home screen, helping to ensure that all is ready to go when it's time to start their studying. As I mentioned earlier, it's a best practice to get your learners set up as early as possible. we have seen that statistically, those who do are more likely to take their NHA certification as well as earn their certification. All right, now let's go ahead and do that live walkthrough. Let me pull up that account. Should appear on the screen. All right, so now we're viewing the client experience institution. Your login is going to look very similar to this, if not exactly the same. If you don't have the staff or manage users button, don't worry about that. That's just different account status. All right, so one of my favorite tools available from here is the Help Center. Right, so right here, you'll see this under the information. We do have this Help Center button. I'm going to open this up in a new tab. And here are those three core sections that we mentioned earlier, but the search bar is where I always like to go to, right? So for example, we're going to cover a few items today, such as creating a course, right? So something that you're going to be doing in the future, right? So you can just type in how to create a course. All right, so there it is, how to create a course, and it's going to give you a step-by-step guide on how to do that. Now you're getting ready to invite your students. You'll type in on the search bar how to invite your students. And again, step-by-step guides. Some of them even have videos. Now, one of the most important things to do prior to creating your course is checking your inventory, right? Because if you invite a student to a course with no inventory, they will not be able to access any of the content. So we're going to come right up here under Prep Materials, and we're going to click Inventory. So right from here, you can see how much inventory you have for each of the products that you own. It will break them down by certification type in just a second. All right, just like that. Right, so I'm going to scroll down. I want to create a course for my CCMA program, right? Right now I have 9, but you know what? I have 12 students that I need to invite. It's important that you reach out to your NHA rep, letting them know that you need to purchase some more. So that way, everybody that you're going to invite to your course will have access to that content. All right, now let's go ahead and view our courses, right? We're going to come right up here, again, under prep materials. We're going to click button. And here's where you can view any courses that have already been created, right? So we do have multiple courses on this account, on this client experience institution, but I want a new one, right? I have a new group of students that I want to add, so I'm going to create a new course. We're going to do that by clicking here where it says new course. The name of the course is a required field, right? So we're going to call this one CCMA 3.0. And then, this is my spring semester for 2024. Now, the start date and the end date are not required fields, but these are more of a visual representation for when the course is supposed to begin and when it's supposed to end. All right, but my course is going to start on the 22nd. Just note that if you invite your students any sooner than the 22nd of April, they will not be able to access the content. They'll be able to access their NHA account, but the content will not be available until 4/22. That's not the same for the end date, right? End date is May 30th. Your students will continue to have access after that date, okay? This is, again, just for you to know that this is when it's supposed to end. Now, for course materials, we want to include the CCMA content, which is right here, right? So this is the course that I'm adding, Study Guide 3.0, Practice Test 3.0. And then you'll scroll all the way to the bottom of this page, and you're going to click here where it says Create Course. Once you click Create Course, it's going to take you to your courses. And if you put a start date, it will put the newest course at the very top. Now we have somewhere to put the students. Now we're going to click here where it says roster. Under roster, you're then going to click here where it says invite candidates. So from here, you can follow this example where it's email, comma, space, email, comma, space. Or my preferred method is to utilize the line break. All right, so if you input an email, you'll hit enter, right, to create that line break. For me, it makes it easier to count how many I've already input. right? And then you're just going to check addresses. So checking the address will not send anything out. The system is just checking to make sure that these are valid emails. This user will receive an email from NHA letting them know that they've been invited to your course and they need to create an NHA account, right? So you'll send those invites, they will get those emails. You will also receive an email confirmation from NHA letting you know that the invites have been sent. Those learners that you just invited are going to appear here under invited by organization. Once they create their NHA account, they will then be moved over to currently enrolled, and it will affect your inventory. All right, now they're getting ready to take the exam, right? So the very first thing we want to do is check, see, maybe somebody already scheduled the exam. So under the exam section, we're going to select upcoming exams, right? So my exam, let's go ahead and open it up to 60 days. My exam's going to take place in May. So far, nobody's scheduled it for me. All right, now we're going to click here where it says schedule exam. All right, so here we have a few sections that we have to fill out, right? The testing method will always be online. The max number of applications allowed. So this will limit how many students can register for this exam, right? I said I had 12 students, so 12 students is the max. The exam date is a required field, and I want them to test on May 29th. The application deadline needs to be 8 days or more from the exam date, and it will not allow you to select anything sooner than that, right? So the 29th is the exam date. The latest that they can register will be May 21st. Exam details is an optional field, but this is where you can put the time and location of the exam, right? So it's going to be room 1 at 10:30 in the morning. Purchase order number, depending on your institution. This might be a required field, but for everybody, typically is optional. And I'm going to select the exam type, right? I want to make sure that it is the CCMA exam. This is the exam that they'll be registering for. And then you're going to click here where it says request exam date. All right, so you'll get a prompt that it was successfully submitted. And then you're going to click, and it's going to take you straight to your upcoming exams. Now, because that one is more than 30 days out, I'm going to change it to 60 days, and it should appear. And there it is. Right, with this new experience to create the exams, you have the ability to make some edits. Let's say you had an additional student join your course. Now you have 13. So you need to change the max amount allowed. You're going to click the edit button, and then you can increase the number from here. Right? You cannot edit the exam date, but you can change the application deadline to a sooner date, right? So you can't choose anything after the 21st, but you can choose something before. And then we're just going to go ahead and update exam features. Oh, no. Down here, update exam. All right, so now that your students are applying for the exam, you want to make sure that they're actually applying for the exam, right? So we have this under the candidates section on your navigation bar. You're going to click where it says view exam applications. All right, and they're going to appear, if they're testing on site, they're going to appear here under first party applications. Their names will begin to populate, and under the status, it needs to say pending approval. If the status says new or unpaid, that student has not completed the exam application and will not appear on your exam roster. All right, so that does it for our live walkthrough. So one of the biggest items we haven't covered today is on the reporting resources. We will be holding additional webinars, some focusing just on these tools. So for now, you'll know that the moment a candidate accesses their study materials, no matter the learning content, reports will begin to load. These include filterable tools, downloadable PDFs, and deep analytics to provide you clarity in your learner's process. NHA's Learning Insight Center has reports that highlight, among other things, progress through the modules, performance in assessments, and time spent in study. Again, today's webinar is not about the content, but we will hold others. So keep an eye out in the upcoming events page to register for future sessions. As a reminder, NHA wants you to be able to address your questions when they happen. So we've already reviewed the how-tos and knowledge center, but please know these self-guided resources are your first line of defense for both you and your students on what to do and the mechanics of how your resources and website work. There's tons of great stuff in here to use throughout the program, including a best practices video to share with your students using their prep materials. If the answer you need isn't found here, then please use our client care team. They are the live chat and help center phone line and are available extended hours, but not 24. That means that you and your students don't have to wait until your NHA contact is free to answer any questions that are urgent. This group of people are incredible and are all located in the US. Their goal is to answer your questions and will stay on with you as long as you need. So please have some patience during peak call times. In addition, you have your NHA account representative. If you don't know who your personal contact is, please be sure to include an inquiry that's in that survey that we'll be posting soon. They are here to help with all other tools and resources and to ensure you have everything you need to be successful and empower your learners to earn their certifications. If you or your institution would like any additional training, either as a group or individually, your client executive can connect with the client experience team to get something scheduled for you. So revisiting our initial ask of the items you were hoping to learn today. So please select as many of the items that you now feel are more confident in navigating for yourself. All right, so I'm going to post another poll. All right, so what are you most hoping to learn that was revisited? All right, so feel free to answer those questions. We'll wait a few seconds before. All right, I've wait a few more seconds. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and end the poll. Perfect. Thank you so much for taking the time to answer that. So before we get to Q&A, I wanted to reiterate that this has been recorded. Anyone who registered for this session will receive the recording from today's webinar. If we can or haven't addressed your questions in the Q&A at the end of today, we'll be capturing all questions and we'll work hard to get in touch with you directly for additional assistance. Also, wanted to take a moment to make sure you all know how thankful we are for you. I want to thank you for all that I know that you're doing and for being here with me today. You work incredibly hard. We all know that you are truly heroes. So every day putting yourselves out there and working crazy hours. So from all of us, thank you. All right. So before we wrap up, do we have any additional questions we want to address, Mary?
No, I haven't seen any more come in, but thank you, Diego.
Perfect. All right, everybody. Well, thank you again so much for joining today's webinar. Like we mentioned, it will be recorded. And I want to just prompt that survey link Lauren just put in the chat. So if you want to be input into that raffle, go to the chat box and then Lauren already put that link for us. Thank you, Lauren. And feel free to click the links and fill them out. Okay, we'll wait a few seconds before we close out the webinar so that way you can grab those links or maybe just some last minute questions that'll come through. All right, everybody. Again, thank you so much for coming. I hope you have a wonderful day.